come back feeling a little bit better. Then we shall now continue in the debate and recognize the government's budget member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to address my jurisdiction from Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I rise in full support of the private resolution presently on the floor of the House, as has been proposed by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, who chairs that committee, and of course the Honorable Premier, the second motion. Mr. Speaker, perhaps the public listening to these proceedings today will deem this exercise an exercise in futility. Or I say that this is symbolic, given the fact that His Excellency the Governor has announced through the press release that that will be implemented from 1st April 2013. And what is that? Who said? Mr. Speaker, today is not only about repealing the land ordinance or debate and passage of the private resolution presently on the floor of the House. It's about the principle of taxation without representation. It's about lending a democratic voice to a measure which was done by a non-elected body, albeit a body duly appointed under the interim constitutional order. And I do not say that to offend the government's two appointed members. Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I am satisfied, and I believe that the favorable comments the public expressed to me as a member of that committee, they were satisfied that the committee thoroughly investigated this matter. It was quite clear, Mr. Speaker, that the VAT unit, now former staff members of the revenue unit, is not ready for the implementation of that. And I think one of the members alluded to the fact of the staff in the VAT unit. And it was during the course of the hearings that we found out that most of the officers, with the exception of one, has been transferred to that. Mr. Speaker, again, by the admission of the finance team and the hearings, they stated that 3 options were proposed by the Rural Report, and that was the best of the 3 options, for evil, I believe, one of them was. The executive summary of the Rural Report on page 5 headed the assessment of individual taxes. Gould and his scored very good for the present tax measures that we have in force. And he stated that these taxes should probably place some significant importance in any reform tax system. These are import duties, the TCI, main existing taxes, and fees using a 4-point scoring scale, accommodation tax, corporate tax, and communication tax, and various gaming taxes and fees. The 2 taxes which might have scored very low had he graded them were stamp duty on land transfers and the charges for work permits and PRCs. Now we know that given the present economic difficulties and with the difficulties we encountered in the past with land sales and the present land policy as defined in the land ordinance, these make it difficult to raise the kind of revenues we experienced in the past. And as I understand it, work permit fees were not meant to be a revenue earner, but more as a control mechanism for immigration. However, we did benefit from the boom. And I believe now we can see that there's a downward trend in work permit fees as well as in PRCs. Mr. Speaker, what is quite clear from the Rural Report executive summary on page 6 and 3/4 of page 8, he speaks more to improving the taxes presently enforced in customs duty and redesigning a quasi-tax on work permits and a rationalization of the system of fees and charges, which are collected by a wide variety of different methods. And I emphasize that point again. A redesigning of the quasi-tax on work permits and a rationalization of the system of fees and charges, which we presently collect. I also at page 14 of the Rural Report, having analyzed the 10 main current revenue sources in 0809, he said, notwithstanding the somewhat unconventional nature, this structure over a sustained period until 2009 does not seem to have been a hindrance to relatively strong revenue growth and his graph dating back to 1985, 1986 to 2009, 2010 shows a strong growth to $200 million per annum and a modest decline in 2008 and 2009 when the worldwide recession affected us all. He said that the previous revenue system has not failed comprehensively, and so we should try to build on the good elements and beware of throwing away elements of that system unnecessarily. From page 29 onward, when he begins to get into his recommendations and the rationale, he does not specifically lay out the introduction of VAT. This recommendation in most areas look at a combination of taxes. However, his report on pages 44 to 46 recommend VAT, annual tax on land and residential property, and income tax. Mr. Speaker, the electorate of TCI during the recent election campaign called a unified message on that, and that is repeal. The law is cumbersome, and based on what the Appropriations Committee was told, the team is just not ready. They admitted to us and the public at large that they are just not ready. Should we take the people of TCI into just uncertainty? Mr. Speaker, I listened to the family of three in South Kensington, this really tears me out. This family is rightly concerned because even with the exempt breadbasket items, that will negatively impact their day-to-day living. Two of the young men are unemployed as victims of the redundancy exercise, and one is physically challenged. This family, like many other families throughout the nation and rest of TCI, are concerned about the negative impact of WET. By the admission of the WET team who undertook a WET member, who undertook an analysis of prices as it was on the day she visited the supermarket or whichever establishment, she concluded that there would likely be a 3 to 4% increase in prices. So the question is, can the people of TCI afford to bear a 3 to 4% growth in price increase? Mr. Speaker, the consultative forum considered this measure, and having been present in the public gallery that day, the public relations pitch for that was that the big businesses were opposed to that as they would have to go through their books, and the taxpayers of the TCI would be aware of their income. Big businesses would have to pay their fair share of taxes. Mr. Speaker, our economy is a service-based economy. The big businesses, example, the law firms, the accountants, the architects, over the threshold will no doubt have to be registered. And of course, their books will be open, because at some stage or the other, they may be prompted to an audit by that. But the cost of their service plus that will be passed on to me as they are mere collectors for the government. And of course, they will partially 11% tax, and of course they will recoup that 11% back from the government. So what they are collecting for government. Mr. Speaker, as referred to the committee's report, two further studies were done, but we were not privileged to these reports until after March, asking and begging and pleading by the chairman to have sight of those reports. The business community, from their presentations at the consultative forum, did not rule out the implementation of public taxation or public tax increases in TCI. Their concern was merely the lack of the due process. The business community, as we understand it from the FDA, is still very much adverse to that implementation. And I believe the fact that the large businesses are refusing to register because we were told at the committee meeting that very few of them have registered. And it's signals of revolt or protest on the part of TCI businesses. And the ones of great concern, I believe, to all of us is the potential loss of revenue. That's on the first of April. Those companies, those big businesses are not registered. Mr. Speaker, what really concerns me is the amount of work involved in the next 60 days. It was confirmed that large businesses like IGA and building material could possibly face challenges with inventory. Not finally, with these establishments on that side regarding inventory, it's going to be one of the government customers under that process. Because that will have to be part of that inventory exercise to ensure that what those establishments are saying that they have in that inventory is truly what they have on that day. So it's really going to be that idea with customers, with that officers who are saying that they are fully, that they are understaffed at present. What is also missing in the school exercise is the establishment of a fraud unit within that department. And then that is, what is in that department will be absorbed during, and sorry, let me go back again. What is missing in this entire debate is the establishment of a fraud unit in the value-based department, where the best staff will be absorbed. And the ordinance does speak to White House in the investigation that we with that unit. But I believe there is a need for a fraud unit at apart from what the day-to-day administrative work and the investigations of that unit. If that is going to be a success, it must have the full support of its leaders. And judging by what has been said today in this honorable house, and the views of the populace at large, how can we as leaders sell that when we are opposed to it, and we are supposed to be the ones leading the way, and the country and the populace following us? So it's going to be foolhardy for those of us who are here as leaders, particularly the leader of the opposition, Mr. Camille, to sell to the country a measure that we in this House of Assembly do not support. Mr. Speaker, what I also read from the contact report, and what was interesting to me from the contact report, they used the Bahamas to measure the input and the output structure for Turks and Caicos Islands. And they use, by using the national accounts data, the customs data, and the input-output data from the Bahamas. Why is it that they could not have used something from a smaller country within the Caribbean, and I would say possibly the British Virgin Islands? I know that the Bahamas revenue streams are like ours, tourism, and then of course the financial services. So perhaps that is the reason we're looking at the Bahamas as to get the input-output structure to design for Turks and Caicos Islands. I don't know about you, but for me that causes some great concern because I really do not see the applicability to Turks and Caicos Islands.
Yeah, you get it? You got that, right?
I want to congratulate the Honorable for studying with the Premier and all those so far who have spoken about against this anti-measure. The repeal of that will signal to the Turks and Caicos Islands that we have restored confidence in the democratic process, and I think that is what the country is looking for. Democracy in its fullest sense, as defined by the Honorable Premier, that he spoke with personal explanations a little while ago. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again, Turks and Caicos, let us all get behind our leaders and let them carry us forward in this exercise.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Are there any other contributions? The opposition appointed member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to this motion dealing with our objection to and ultimately the repeal of value-added tax. Mr. Speaker, when we are looking at this matter of value-added tax, it has to begin and end with the people. We cannot look at this in isolation or just look at figures. We have to look at its impact. What I see emerging here, Mr. Speaker, is, for instance, if an individual who has just $100, for instance, per week, before VAT comes into existence, or before it takes effect, after the imposition of VAT with 11% rate, and also by their own admission, they have admitted that the cost of living would go up by a modest, they say, 4%. Now, I believe this 4% would comprise the administrative costs that the merchants would have to bear to try to be in compliance with value-added tax. And certainly they are not going to bear that additional cost. They are going to spread that over the items that they sell. Therefore, it stands to reason that somebody who has $100 per week before that will now see a marked reduction in their purchasing power of that $100 by as much as $15. Because knowing our people, the ones who have the least will save the least because they cannot save much from $100. And that $100 isn't enough. But if that's all they have, that's all they have. So that $100 would be spent, and it would attract the 11% plus the administrative costs. So instead of being able to purchase $100 worth of goods, you'll now only be able to purchase $85 effectively worth of goods. And I heard, Mr. Speaker, some remarks being made about what happens to the cost that government has occurred in hiring people and putting on contracts. That particular cost pales in comparison to what it's going to cost us as a country, economically and socially, if we continue down the table. I think this is a good point for us to put on the brakes and re-examine where we are heading with value-added tax. We are here today because of an irregularity in the procedure. In my view, therefore, value-added tax becoming law. In that was passed amidst much controversy, as has already been said. Mr. Speaker, I do not take too kindly to what I perceive to be a threat of the powers of the government. I am aware of the powers of the government. I'm aware of the options that he has. I was in this honorable house back in 1996 when we, as a legislature, had to stand united against one common issue. That is the tyranny of the government at that time, Mr. Borg. All right? And Mr. Speaker, the thing is, you have to take a stand when things are wrong, when things are not right. We cannot be afraid to take a stand when we are standing on the side of right. And Mr. Speaker, this VAT, the way how they're going about it is wrong. This country, Mr. Speaker, will be facing a major shift in its inward investment strategy. Moving forward, the value-added tax become law and implemented. Up to this point, we have been able to sell the Turks and Caicos Islands overseas as a country with no direct taxation. And this gave us a comparative advantage when other countries were considered. That will dull the edge we have, and we will no longer be able to cut it as an incentive to attract inward investment if we go forward in this vein. The wisest man who ever lived, Mr. Speaker, took good advice from his counselors. Even if HMG is atheist or agnostic, it still is good practice to take sound advice. A number of well-researched professionals have studied this whole area of value-added tax, and they are not in agreement with it. This body of persons include chartered economists, lawyers, business managers. They are all bewildered by the approach taken by the government and HMG in this 21st century. The average person, when being consulted in meetings, call for more details, have been left largely unattended. Experts have given their professional advice, and after careful study and comparison on that, on the economy of the Turks and Caicos Islands, concluded, based on scientific evidence and not guesswork, that it is not suited for the Turks and Caicos Islands. Mr. Speaker, I had an opportunity to do a little research on what has been happening in the Bahamas, but they're looking into that. And this is an informed opinion by one of the managing directors of KPMG. You can check it online. And his view is value-added tax would be less clean for government to oversee due to its several thousand collection points. What he means by this, presently right now, we collect most of our taxes at the port of entry, whether it be dock or the airport. Two places to concentrate on. With that, it'll be more labor intensive. We now have to have people to go around to every business place. Every business place that is registered to make sure that they are in compliance. We have already heard how there's, opportunities to evade it. Just don't generate no invoice. Don't generate no invoice. And that is a problem right now in the UK because a lot of the transactions going on is not being recorded. And Mr. Speaker, that is for good reasons. I this morning was looking at some figures here. Value annual tax right now in the UK averages 20%. I show it started much lower. In Ireland, value added tax is up to 25%, with the standard rate being 23%. Even in Brazil, it is up to 19%. Value added tax is something that continues to move. And we have to be careful because we have seen NHIP just was introduced recently, and it has moved. Persons who didn't have to pay, like the children, now you have to pay. We have to be careful. Mr. Speaker, value added tax carries with it, as already been stated here, a new administrative burden, as well as the duty to collect. People must go in here to collect this thing. So it's labor intensive. Mr. Speaker, what this professional advises is that in implementing value-added tax, it is a major implementation which will take very detailed planning with the right education on new systems and processes and how things are done going forward. Mr. Speaker, there has been no detailed planning with regards to that in the Turks and Caicos Islands. There has been the right education has not taken place. And I would like to point out, Mr. Speaker, And he advises that one of the first things that needs to be done in the context of tax reform was a social economic analysis on how value-added tax impact the different sectors of the economy and community. My question is, has that exercise been carried out? Or do we not, or we have no concern about how it is going to impact the most vulnerable among us? Because some of us can afford better wind blow, rain shine to buy chop and change. Does that mean we are so eager, so motivated to implement a system without caring how our brothers and sisters are going to feel when this thing is implemented? I am not privy to the estimated budget for social welfare, but I know that over the years, social welfare has not been getting the type of level of support needed to keep our people above the poverty line. And if we have done a more recent poverty-based assessment, we would find that a number of persons who could have kept their head above water has now slipped below that poverty line. And what we are now going to do is force a system that the experts have already advised us. Before you do this, check on the price, check on the cost, the social and economic cost that people are going to pay once you implement this. And it goes on further, it says. The other thing that struck me is that the government appears to be doing some impact analysis of the numbers. But one of the things we felt needed to be done is a social economic analysis in the context of tax reform. That should be one of the first things you do. Mr. Speaker, it looks as if we are putting the cart before the horse in this regard. And Mr. Speaker, during the whole exercise of consultation, we cannot hear straight talk based on facts or a fixed position regarding policy. The point has already been made of the UK minister stating one thing and then vacillating later on to say that although I might have said that it's up to an elected government to deal with, but I am now going to take that privilege away from them. This value-added tax is going to be imposed on you, whether you want it or not. That is duplicitous. And because it has never been left up to a democratically elected government or House of Assembly to introduce, refer to a select committee, debate, and eventually resolve, Mr. Speaker, this value-added tax cannot be said to enjoy the goodwill of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. We are now going to be governed, Mr. Speaker, as has already been mentioned by the acting AG, by a set of rules called Statement of Governance Principles. I'm fully persuaded that the imposition of value-added tax, Mr. Speaker, when we look at this Statement of Government Principles, is a violation of principle number 2. I'll read principle number 2 for you. The government of the islands should involve the participation of the people. The government shall serve and take into account of the interests of all the people in the islands. In particular, where consultation is mandated by law, the government is required to be assured that the consultation process undertaken by the government was accessible and meaningful before assigning to any outcome following consultation. Mr. Speaker, I dare say that process, the process that has been carried out with regards to that is a direct violation of the very rule they want us to be governed by. Mr. Speaker, we cannot be duplicitous in how we deal with these matters. If it is good for one set of situation, it will be good for the other. Mr. Speaker, there are some unanswered questions of a basic nature, yet vitally important to the average man in the street. And I'll turn to this $10 million. This seems to be a number that the interim government uses when it decides to take from the people, and they cannot justify the amount. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you will recall the $10 million from MID. With regards to bandwagon tax, we are going through all of this hardship just to say, to produce that familiar $10 million. But again, Mr. Speaker, this VAT wasn't supposed to produce $10 billion because it's supposed to be revenue neutral. So are they speaking with two tongues? Is it going to produce extra money, or is it just going to replace what certain things used to produce? Mr. Speaker, it is not necessary. All we have to do is to go out there and collect what is due to government and enforce the regulations and laws. Reduce unnecessary wastage. These simple measures will result in a higher level of revenues and savings for the government. Thank you. I'll line up. Mr. Speaker, we must demonstrate to the people and residents of the Turks and Caicos Islands that as a government we have done enough to plug the leakage and to show a resolve to collect outstanding revenues with efficiency and tenacity. Reference has been made to the Rowe Report, which commands time-tested methods of collecting high levels of government revenue at modest cost. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I cannot, Mr. Speaker, support value-added tax, and I therefore, Mr. Speaker, support this motion that it be repealed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Any other contributions? The Honorable Member for Grand Turk South Soki.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to give my contributions to this motion. I am all over the country looking forward to measures for providing more predictable and sustainable revenue generators. I am not convinced that that is the best option for the country at this time. I do not support the implementation of April. Mr. Speaker, as we have heard, that VAT is a consumption tax, and that is a regressive tax. And Mr. Speaker, we know that regressive tax benefits one group and punishes the poor. 1%. Let's take this example. If someone is making $200,000 a year, they may only spend about 50% of their annual earnings, so they will only be taxed on 50%. Whereas if the poor man down the street makes $15,000 a year, he has to spend all of that supporting himself, his kids, his wife, so he's taxed on 100% of his income. Whereas the wealthy person only taxed on 50, 20, 30, depends on how much money they make. So it's inconsistent, and it really is detrimental more to the poor. Mr. Speaker, in most countries at some point it costs more for the government to be chasing around the invaders than they expect the revenue collected. Now, I know that reminds some of us on city recovery. I know the retail on there and what they're collecting. So this is a system that pushes goals. It follows the rules, and it gives a bad public opinion. As we know that it's difficult for us to let police right now in our system, their establishments that's supposed to be collecting business licenses. So imagine VAT. But Mr. Speaker, I use one example for me. Actually there's two, and I'm going to start with the first one. And I'm glad I'm speaking after lunch because maybe if I had started this before, I probably would have been sitting by myself inside the dining room. But what I have to say is, what I wanted to hear today is that while we are opposing the introduction of VAT, I wanted the government to present to us, to HMG, our funders. I wanted to hear more about, again, we're not introducing VAT, we are doing this, we have this on cover. I wanted to hear that we are working with this system. I wanted to hear our representative say that we are trying this, we have tried this has failed. We are going back to the drawing board. I wanted to hear the alternatives here, and I didn't hear it. I hear the opposition, but I wanted to hear more substantial things on what we are doing to be in place of that. We're saying no to that, but we have to come with some other revenues. We just cannot say no to it. The revenue that should not go to the people. That's why we have to make our fund sell to us, to the people, and to HMD. Regardless of that, we have to work with our government office. Even if we feel unfair, maybe that's a system that we are in now. So we have to produce something that is controlled to everyone, and everyone will agree on. I want the government to say anything what you're doing. I want to hear you say that we have this in place to generate $10 million that's required. Correct. That we have this in place that we're going to generate $20, $40, $40 million. That's what I want to get today. That you say that we do not need this man. We have this in place. We are working with this. That's what I came here to hear. Yes, I know we are working against it, and we have all identified the reasons why we're against it. But let's look at the alternatives. We can't just keep on relying on the problems. We have to find the solutions to these problems. But I have to say, if the government will ahead, I have some suggestions that they can do, but it's not for us to be good at job. You're in the driving seat, and we want you to make us proud. We want you to deal with this problem. Make us proud. Make Turks take science proud. Deal with this. Come with the solutions. Come with the right, point the people in the right direction. Wait, I shouldn't say it that way, but point the people in the direction they should go. One of the things is you can start. I know you're doing it. Go and visit the investment unit. I know how many times you have visited your since you have made the last 8 days. But the investment unit right now is ran by 2 persons. That unit that is so important to our country is ran by 2 persons. I don't know if you have a report from your or what sector is investment. I'm not hearing anything that is sector. So all these things, I want to know what is going on. And so we are saying no to VAT. But again, it's February now. Yes, we are opposed to VAT, but that means that we are opposed to VAT now. Does that mean that the civil service might get the 10% as promised? We achieved this promise in February. This is February because what does we oppose to this mean? Is the civil service getting the 10% as well? I want to know. I made those promises that they would get it.
So now, yes.
And Mr. Speaker, also the next dilemma that I'm faced with. Just like I think I have the story right when Joshua was selected as mayor. God told him to select those 9 cases but those were the people at the top. So that's what I was saying. I heard the 2 people put the man to speak today. And I'm just putting it on there. Isn't that they can speak clearly to an issue because they are not elected and they do not have political pressure. So they're speaking more logical, whereas we are speaking more emotional. I'm not saying what you are, I'm just putting it out there. I'm looking at all of the situations surrounding this stuff.
Yeah, probably within the last 5 years.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. And I'm thinking on your people. This is that we are the parents who saying that, no, I'm not going to take, my child needs to go to the doctor. Yes, she's going to get a needle. This is what her. And she's going to do something, but I'm not going to make anything. So this is what are we doing? I'm just saying to you. I am opposed to that, but I want alternative to the solutions. And I listen to the members, and what they're saying makes sense in one way, but I'm too opposed to that. So what I want to know is what are we going to the country? What are we going to That is what I want to hear. And I hope that sometime soon we can bring that to the country. And this is why I'm saying that I may be here in soon by myself today, because I wanted to hear more solutions and we can talk to the problem. Yes, I am against that. I support the solution fully, but I also want to hear solutions. We need solutions to get to our country. Not just opposing. We need solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I recognize the Honorable Member for Appeals.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, normally when we are to speak this late in the game, everybody else before you already said what you want to say. Freely I'll say, it's good to be repetitious sometimes because that's the only time the governor or the government got the message that you feel the same way that a person. Mr. Speaker, I like to say, it's important that I give my contribution to this motion and to the repeal bill, even though it's one of the same arguments that each and every one of us who came before me has made. I was not going to detail that you will not have to put a time limit on me, like my colleague. I'll make it very short, a minute or two, and I'm finished. Mr. Speaker, today I represent the people of the 1565. It's not the British government, and not the government. Yes, the people that represent the government or his appointed members do not feel the pressure like we, who are representatives of the people, feel. We know the social ills that will arise from this very issue here. And I am not going to pretend that all is well. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking, where is the balance of power? Where is the partnership that the government and the British government love to boast about? Where is it? Where is the partnership? The honorable member that spoke before me said that the statement of governing principle is in direct conflict with this implementation of VAT. So far, I've seen and heard that the British government say stuff and look at not say. That's not good. If you can't implement the eye when you're talking to him, then don't say what you want to say to him. Okay? So Speaker, white people, green people, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't represent the wishes of the people, then it's not good for the people. Mr. Speaker, if the British government continually wants to help the country to take it in good faith, they will look at other measures, trade. It's so sad to see that that Turks and Caicos is a great overseas dependent country, and there's nothing here represents real interests of the British government different from the governing basis that they put here in terms of their agencies and their directorship. Nothing else represents the British government. Where are the trade that we're supposed to be doing with English or London? Where are they? Huh? They are doing these things with all of the other Caribbean countries as well as all of the other independent countries that is part of the Commonwealth. And in the Turks and Caicos, we are now being treated like not even a stepchild, probably an unruly child, but I honestly don't feel like the guilt or the punishment was the crime. So, right now, you know, the Turks and Caicos people is saying no to that. The business community is saying no to that. More, Mr. Speaker, than 2 main political parties are saying no to that. They're saying no because they believe that what will damage the social fabric of this country. It will bring the economic situation in this country to a standstill. It will introduce poverty amongst our people. But yet, we stand here debating this, and the reserve power still lies in the hands of the government, still lies in the hands of the crown. It's almost disheartening to know that you can go there and try to put the best you can for your people because you know their pain. But whatever you do, or all the recommendations you make, all the contributions you give, will be pushed on the side. This is not true democracy. And like the Premier said, we need to look at the Constitution, because law isn't always right. Mr. Speaker, we are at the crossroad of decision making. And I want the Premier and the leader of the opposition to know if you enter a fight, you got to be prepared to finish it. We in this country knows, doesn't say, knows. If the thing ain't broken, don't fix it. Doesn't make any sense fixing something that isn't broken. And I must say, now, it seems like a debate because we're not, I really doesn't have a speech prepared, but my colleague on the side of me is asking for different means of raising revenue. I say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Our prison system was working, still working. The PDM position is simple. It was the first election. Mr. Speaker, that is a bitter cup that is put to the mouth of the people of Turks and Caicos Island. Mr. Speaker, if you look at my colleague's position paper, you will see that it has all of the ingredients that makes wet a bitter cup. That's why we are totally against it. And I am saying right now, I'm not willing to drink from that. Mr. Speaker, right now I say that wet is not our name. So if it's down and I operate well, we need to throw it up.
Thank you very much. I noticed that it was not the 2 minutes piece you said. Thank you very much. Are there any other contributions? Any other contributions? There are, then I'll ask the motions one, please. Recognize the member of the
Today marks President's Day, which is nomination by God's promise. Today we are here to perform a most basic mandate that protect the rights and interests of people. You see, we are here because our friends, our families, our neighbors, our colleagues, and our bosses, and I do dare to say yes, our bosses, which are the people of this country, have sent us here to do. Mr. Speaker, I have spent
just order on the other side. What's wrong with the speaker's friend?
Mr. Speaker, I have spent the last 10 years of my life trying to get into this house. But I think it's important to say that I did not do that when he sells here. When he fears or when he takes a position that one might see me in. As a speaker, my fight has been to elevate myself to a stature that will allow me to truly represent the people of this country. Not only in voice or in action, but also in appearance. For the simple fact, Mr. Speaker, is whenever anyone sees me wanting to play in from Provo to Grand Church to come to this Humble House, they would know that I did not get here by who I know. I did not get here by who liked me. And I most certainly didn't get here by my willingness to follow the instructions of anyone who would come to these shores and impose a tax such as that upon our country, and not even going to be staying around long enough to see the short time or long time tax. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I think it's appropriate for me to say that I support this motion to repeal the value tax ordinance 2012. But it's also important to note that I did not take this position lightly. For I am well aware of the need of government to raise necessary revenues to maintain and develop our country. I'm aware of that. I also think it's important to know, and for this country to know, and for those people in my constituency who elected me to know, that I would not simply join hands with the VMP who have campaigned against on numerous occasions, unless I was absolutely sure that the issue I was joining hands about was the right fight on the right issue. And I dare say the repealing of that is the right issue. You see, Mr. Speaker, I understand my responsibility given to me by the people. They have sent me here for one thing and one thing only, to represent their interests. And I do sincerely and honestly believe that the implementation of that is against the interests of the people of this country.
I believe again and rely on my party's position that that was outside the scope of the interim administration. I believe that it will increase the cost of essential services. I also believe that that as proposed, has the potential of shifting the tax base in this country. Then where the tax is a tax that is geared towards the production of goods. As we are a service-driven economy, Mr. Speaker, the implementation of that here will change that concept, because that will now be added to goods and services. And anyone here who has been paying attention would know that your local population are the consumers of services in the country. These are the people who will feel the effects of that. Mr. Speaker, that has a negative effect on small businesses that do not meet the $200,000 threshold. These businesses will not be able to register for up until almost 2 years. And I run a number of small businesses, Mr. Speaker. And I don't know how many small businesses in this country can be disadvantaged for almost 2 years and survive. It's just an unrealistic proposition. You see, Mr. Speaker, these same businesses, even if they are lucky enough to weather almost 2 years of being disadvantaged as an unregistered company, they might opt to register after that 18-month period. But now they would have to endure the cost of keeping proper records and potential accounting services. Mr. Speaker, the authors of this ordinance clearly have not taken the time to realize the business culture in this country. They have not taken the time to really dive in and talk to the small business owners. And they really have no sense on what a small business is in the Turks and Caicos Islands. You see, initially, this 200,000 was 100,000. And even then, they had no idea on how many business would that cost. Our president CFO said that they move up to 200,000 because they want to restrict the number of persons, number of businesses being registered initially. Well, what you want to do is restrict the number of businesses being registered initially so you can get the system working better. Then obviously, there's some fundamental flaw in your tax strategy. Mr. Speaker, in addition, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Premier, I am so happy that the government has taken such a keen interest in the PDM's position. Because I heard coming from that side an echo that clearly shows that they support our views. And while we are jointly hand in hand on the opposition of that, there's the People's Democratic Movement who will, from the get-go, they know clearly where we stand and why we stand here. Mr. Speaker, I was informed while we were on our lunch break that the red team is moving full speed ahead. They are sitting in offices probably as we speak, trying to get companies registered. I was contacted and was told that on the form, you now have to put your bank account in, your bank account number. And when it was asked why was this necessary, the statement was, if you don't pay your VAT, the government can take it directly from your account. Mr. Speaker, I can hasten to say that I hope that this was misunderstood or just a bad rumor. See, the application of VAT to sales sales and transfer of land is nothing more than property tax by a different name. A government finding ways to tax a piece of generation land that a mother may pass down to a child is not good financial engineering, but rather a costly cop-out for the lack of know-how or ideas. Mr. Speaker, if you would have listened to the Appropriations Committee held last week, you would have heard the implementation of that theme that creates a distortion in the marketplace, whereby companies are currently holding large inventory are given hard or unrealistic options. Mr. Speaker, countries that are similar to us, that are older than us, that are more developed than us, have either rejected that or have now found themselves regretting its implementation. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I would like to read the conclusion of the PDM's conclusion from our opposition paper. In which I quote, governments are put in place to develop laws and policies that protect science in generations to come. While we can appreciate the need for government to find new revenue sources to foster greater fiscal health and a sustainable economy for the country, there must be a less penalizing means to accomplish this goal. Our residents and citizens are still trying to recover from the effects of the recession. To implement a tax system that is particularly burdensome to the middle class and the poor will not eliminate poverty, but will ensure it. Government has to reach a delicate balance between having a stable economy and imposing a tax that could result in contracting the economy. End quote. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of discrepancies still on here. There are a number of unanswered questions still on that. And it's obvious that the red tape is not ready for April 1st implementation. But a tax that will increase the cost of living and negatively affect small businesses, Mr. Speaker, I must state, and in light of what the Assistant Attorney General has said, and one of the governor's appointed member, I would like to state the following. The UK government, along with the governor and the CFO, may very well have the constitutional authority to impose a tax such as that. But I dare say that they don't have the moral right to do so without the people's consent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable member. There are no contributions, so I'll call on Hoover to line up, please.
I just want to thank all the
1 second. Recognize our Minister of Finance.
I'm sure Mr. Dale, I don't believe in the other way, I don't speak, but I'm going to anyway, speak on you. Let me say this. I think today is very interesting day. Today is a day that was all brought up. And I think for those of us who are listening, I think we can all agree that the level of equality we face today is one that we can all be proud of. And it should tell us that when we take the time to work together, focus on issues that are important, that we can act in the best interest of the people of our island. I'm very proud of the development today that I'm hearing today. I'm very grateful to my colleagues. This motion before us today, as someone said earlier, is not just about value-added tax. It is not just about the imposition of taxation. It is about anyone else who has looked into it, there was a serious attempt by the government to deform value-added tax until we have had an opportunity, that is, we, the country, to properly evaluate our alternatives and to properly evaluate the impact of value-added tax on the person makers. The governor's appointed member, their member, indicated that we start with a blank slate, and what we end up with is not a sensible way forward, even if you are mindful to support some form of value-added tax. I think we're operating in an environment where there's been no attempt and no intention by the British representatives in the Turks and Caicos Islands to compromise. And which President Obama, I believe, said, and I quote, "A good compromise is like a good piece of legislation. Like a good sentence or a good piece of music. Everybody can recognize it. They say, oh, it works, it makes sense. So value-added tax does not work for us, in its current form, and it makes no sense. And so I would like to associate myself with those persons who have already spoken. I am a little baffled by my colleague, even though I appreciate the sentiment, because I believe this ought to be a conscience issue. I was a little baffled by my colleague from Vancouver South, and Saul Key. I was left with the impression that he's not sure whether he supports it or not. And well, the argument was didn't support the statement. And so I want to make it clear here today that I am aware. We came here today having a prearranged discussions as to how we would proceed. And from our side, and I hope from this side, we do not seek a PDF solution or answer, or we do not seek a PNP answer. We are here today because we're seeking the right answer for our and let me be very clear. The interim administration answer is not the right answer. And so let us not focus blame on the past. Let us accept our responsibility for the future. I am telling you, the fight has just begun. Believe you me, the fight has just begun. Be prepared. If you're not up to it, then you should say so now. You must be prepared to pay any price. There was President Kennedy to bear any hardship. To oppose any foe. In order to assure the survival of our democracy that we are trying to create here for ourselves. My colleagues, both sides of the table have made it clear that they were not elected to conform to the wishes of the British government or their functionaries. And so, I associate myself with that as well. No one said conformity is the jail of progress and growth. And we're not even conform. change, it should be the change you want to see. We are here, we showed up here because it's our time, and we are the change that we want to see. Appealing to my colleagues, if you're not prepared to be the change that you want to see, then you're doing the people of these islands a disservice. So, by the same token, let me be clear, let me react to what has already been said. The imposition of taxes is a matter for the legislation or legislation enacted by people who have been elected to serve their constituents. We are operating a parliamentary system. But it's an executive body. But even the executive body is accountable to a larger extent to the legislative body. And again, that's why I'm proud to associate myself with my colleagues on the other side. And happy that we are moving in the same direction. We'll see that. So, you know, the concept of having a legitimate mandate. Legitimate mandate is a concept that constituencies say that we are going to allow ourselves to be governed by you. So we are here today because we all have a legitimate mandate to represent the people of these islands. A mandate that says that the legitimacy, and the moral right to use the state power to represent our people. And if I were to point you to Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, United Nations, Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it says that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. The will of the people. I've heard what other members have said. And I particularly heard comments coming from my esteemed colleague on the other side, I mean, on the governance representative. I do not agree with the governor, or neither do I agree with the interim administration that the will of the people was involved in the introduction of value-added tax. The will of the people is best expressed here in the legislature. Someone says, and the origin is unclear, where it came from, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Now, the last time I checked, God was not an Englishman. Right? But even God had a conference, when you call Satan to conference and say, account for yourself. Right? The British government failed to account for the United Nations and the world community for the way they are handling the person of Jacob's Island. And we are calling on the international community to hold the British government to account. And so, the days of the oligarchy of the interim administration has come to an end, or should come to an end. And they must now accept that on November 9th, the people went to the polls and they voted against a new government. And by a new government, I include my colleagues on the opposite side. So the oligarchy of the interim administration that functioned both as poacher and gamekeeper, they must now be prepared to receive or to return the power of the people to the representative of the people. We understand where we are. History has brought us together. History has brought us together as colonizers and those the persons who are colonized. And that is something that we have to deal with. And it may take us time. At the end of the day, even though we may be colonized, we still should be given the common courtesy to express our will and to represent our people to the best of our knowledge. And these are not the days when the Europeans would come to the Caribbean and tell people what is good for them. We know what's good for us. You know? These islands today, in my view, represent some of the brightest young people anywhere on this side of the Atlantic, or anywhere in the world for that matter. We know what's good. We have TV. We have the internet. We're universally educated. We know what's good for us. We don't need the British to come and tell us what's good for us. And that kind of arrogance, I think we have to say no to. And so, you know, I'm not saying that in the midst of everything that happened, some good things haven't happened in these islands. What I'm saying and what I've said in the House before, the things that the British have done properly here, few and far between, we are prepared to build on that. We are prepared to build on that for the development and the enrichment of our people. But for those of you who've been in office before, and for those of you involved in business and moving to the community, you know by and large that the community, whether they be investors, church pastors, community leaders, that they are happy to see a government back in place of the people. And so we must use their faith in us to move this country forward. And just to check my notes here for a second. Go back and say that we are trust together by history. I'm interested in what we do for today. I'm not opposed to sitting around the table and negotiating with the British. I think there's objective criteria that we all share. I believe, I'm naive enough to believe that they seriously want the same thing we want in terms of the sustainable growth of these islands, a source of sustainable income. I'm naive enough to think that that is their motivation. I know many people think that that is not the agenda. But I'll concede that that is their agenda. Right? We have a mandate and an agenda. They have an agenda without a mandate. Our mandate and our agenda, our mandate is given to us by the people, and we all have an agenda which is our platform. And that platform included the rejection of value-added tax as it was presented, or maybe as they not presented, because it was never properly explained. Right? They come to us and they ask us as a government to present an evidence-based alternative to value-added tax at the request of the governor for the foreign tax beyond the April 1st implementation. But by the same token, they decide what those alternatives would be. Either income tax, property tax, or value-added tax. As far as we're concerned, none of those we are prepared for example. I believe I hear the same act on the other side. We don't see those as alternatives. We believe that the system of taxation that we have in place now works. We also believe that the system is poorly administered and there are huge leakages. We believe the system can be corrected, first of all, by compliance, tightening the compliance legislation to make sure that the government collects the tax, the income that is due. But we also believe that there are additional revenues that we can raise without increasing the cost of living for the people who reside in this country and who have to go to the supermarket every day. And I will share my colleague on the other side from Brentford, Southern Black Selena, Solomon, I'll be happy with any suggestions you have. You are elected the same way as I am. This is your house as much as it is my house. And you have every right to make suggestions on the floor of the house. And I can promise you, as the Minister for Finance, I would take them extremely seriously. We have a system, in any case, where you, as an integral part of the approval of a budget. So it would be silly for me or for us not to want to get your support for whatever we're trying to do here. And so, I would be very happy with any suggestions that you have. What I can tell you, and we've gone around the island, we've spoken on radio, and on TV, and we've indicated to you what we believe we can do to raise the revenue. Now, I hear you said you were hoping $20 million or $60 million more. I don't remember the number, but I think you're holding us to a higher standard than you hold the British, and I'm happy with that, to be honest with you, because I hold myself to a higher standard than I hold them to. First of all, in all honesty, given what has happened, I can't trust it, right? And I don't know who else said, God can't trust me, not the dog, that's why the saying goes, playing never, son never sacrificed his dad. Somebody said that, it wasn't me. But just to give you an idea of some of the things we're looking at, I want you to be very careful and listen to me, because this does not impact any of us out in this world, right? Accommodation tax. One of the things we said we want to do is to expand the base, accommodation tax base. Accommodation tax at the moment includes the hotels and the restaurants for the most part. It doesn't even include all the restaurants. Because we know there are restaurants in Provo that you don't see a pale face, a black face to, but they're not paying tax. Because you're not seeing a black face, it means they won't be all tourists, right? And the whole idea of accommodation tax is really focused on collecting money from visitors. So that's a compliance issue that government needs to deal with, and we are dealing with it. I'm saying this to say that you cannot trust the British because they're using semantics to mislead the public when they say we haven't put forward alternatives. My idea of alternative is putting forward measures that will increase revenue, sustainable revenue. And then some of the measures are broadening the accommodation tax, increasing it and broadening it. The accommodation tax is 11%. Now, it is 12% in the Bahamas, 15% here in Jamaica, 22% in the Dominican Republic. Those are the countries that are really around us, and I believe it's more or less the same in the Virgin Islands. Our rough calculation, based on the current budget figures, tells us that we will raise something like $2,700,000 by increasing the accommodation tax by 1%. And if we broaden it to include some of the services that are not currently paying tax, that's including spas and water sports operations, that's an additional $3 million. Now, I notice both of neither of these affect the local, because essentially what you're doing is you're collecting the money and paying it over to the government. And it's not, the consumers here are not the people who buy fees, oil, gasoline, and so on, heat, oil, that and what to transfer. These are all visitors to our shores who are paying higher taxes other places. On the other measures, and we will discuss this with you in due course and at length to make sure we have informed agreement. One of the things we talked about is the introduction of a land levy on strata titles that are not owner occupied. And there's something like, I forget how many thousands of them in total. But if we were to do a flat levy of $500 per unit, that alone will give us $1,500, and that does not include yet the village, because we will also do it on the village. Huh? No, $1,500,000, $1,500,000. The interim administration reduced the stamp duty on land transactions, saying that it would increase the volume of business and therefore increase the revenue coming from that source. Well, I think it's proven that that is not the case. And it's not the case simply because in a recession where the main industry, where one of the causes of the crash is a real estate bubble, which means people do not have the money in any case. The argument has been flawed, and so this is an area where the expectations for revenue generated have not been met. So if we use the current base and put the tax back the way it used to be, right, and it does not impact local people really major extent, that is another $1.7 million. $2 increase on cruise passengers. Is $1.5 million. We're told that there are major smuggling issues going on at the port. You can go downtown Pro and buy a beer for cheaper than the legitimate importers can import it for. So it tells you that people goods are being parallel shipped into the islands without customs duty, right? We estimate that that's another $3.4 million that can be generated from that source. And conservatively, there's a $2.5 million at least that can be generated from other compliance areas, such as business license. 7,000 of them on the coast. We know all of them are not current. We know a large number of people aren't paid. And there are several other areas that have been brought to our attention. Our honorable colleague from All Island, Director, All Island third member, former collector of customs, months. Once the 6 months is up, they leave, they go down to the Dominican Republic, because we are insisting that they pay duties, full duties on the value of their yacht. So there's some common sense issues that we can do, like make a lower interest rate, maybe 10% or something, so those yachts that actually stay there are encouraged to register here, so we now can build a yacht registry. There are all sorts of ways to raise money. It takes a little imagination. It takes no imagination to introduce taxation on people. And certainly no information, no imagination to introduce value-added tax. So I said that so that I can assure my colleagues on the other side that we're not sitting on our hands. Right? We're doing everything that we possibly can to find alternatives. And so the total there of that little exercise is $16.3 million. Right? Okay, it's more than $6 million above what value-added tax is proposed to bring in. Right? And the value-added tax issue is faulty. Because what will happen, a lot of businesses, particularly cash businesses, will go underground. So even the money don't have to go to your bank account. You know, there's nobody, if I stop my money, my pocket full of cash, and no run through my accounting system, it's not going to show up in my bank account. So there are ways that small businesses can go underground. It's happening in Europe. You know, they are looking at the system in the United States and Europe as well. So that doesn't mean that, you know, even if they insist on having access to your bank account, it doesn't mean that they will be able to capture all of the revenue. Anyway, let me say that the other part of the document, both a lot of you already mentioned it. The government initially opted for taxation, right? They borrowed for 6 months, we asked for a year initially. They said, no, we asked for 6 months, so that we can evaluate things and come up with a more broad-based system. I believe what should happen is the opposition and the government, this new spirit of the union should get together and look at appointing a Blue Ribbon committee to look at the whole taxation system in the island, one that will have a local solution to our problem. That is what I think we ought to do. Right? The short term, the measures that I have mentioned, we can introduce those tomorrow, as soon as the necessary legislation has been changed in order to allow us to do it. Right? So essentially what your government has done a week ago, last Thursday, because what the government gave us options to freeze expenses, introduce property tax, introduce value-added tax, or introduce income tax. So we made the tactical decision to freeze income, because for everything that we have done and for everything that we've seen, we believe we can raise the actual income to justify an increase in expenses. And so the plan would be to have a review of the revised budget sometime during the course, the first 3 to 6 months of the new financial year, and justify empirically that there is the revenue there to justify the expenses. That was the plan, right? And we will be glad to share those plans with you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues rather, it is disingenuous of the Union administration, the governor, and all of those persons who support value-added tax. It is disingenuous for them to tell us that value-added tax will be imposed by April 1st. Absolutely no way it could happen. I don't care who tells you it can happen, it can't. So that is why it is so hypocritical that they would not allow us the time, extend the time for us as a country to make an educated decision as to whether it is something that we would even want to consider. So we're here today because they refuse to focus on arriving, identifying the objective, some objective criteria upon which we as a country can work with the British government and achieve the will of the people. So what you cannot, and I'm not advocating this, but what cannot be resolved by negotiating has to be resolved by people sticking to their guns. And as the people I'm asking us, and I hope the whole country is hearing this, I'm saying that we have to stick to our guns on this one. We cannot lose this battle. If we lose this battle, I will echo the words of the fourth all-island candidate. We'll take that base, go to Waterloo, fence, and bury it in the governor's yard. Right? Because then, well, we know technically our powers are limited. We carry a tremendous responsibility with limited authority. When your Minister of Finance can't make a $10,000 decision, right? Right? I am telling you this to my own disgust. I can't make a $10,000 decision. Right? In 2013, your Minister of Finance cannot make a $10,000 decision. Oh, come on. You know? We need to be the change we want to see. Not for me. Because I'm 62 years of age. And I'm on my way out. And I have no intention of conforming. And I have no intention of living up to their definition of behavior. Right? Or anybody's definition.
Honorable Minister, before you close, just on a point of clarification, I'm sure you meant guns, sticking to your guns, metaphorically.
Well, I can say it the other way. I can say what you can't achieve by resolution, you can achieve by revolution. Right? Right? So that's the way I put it. I have no intention, I'm anti-gun. Well, I'm a lover, not a fighter. When it comes to physical, the reason why God has given us intelligence is so that we can fight with words, the weight of argument. I don't mean any violence. I want to make that clear. So finally, I cannot overemphasize the need for us to act together. Believe you me. There are people on the ground who have been hired. There are agreements that have been signed. Right? And there are, as we speak, are instructions that are being issued. So despite the fact that the decision was made last, and advice was given in cabinet last week that we would freeze expenses, they are still insisting on imposing value-added tax. That is my view. Shortly after the meeting last week, the CFO boarded the plane and went to the UK. Believe you me, that was no accident. That was no accident. So if we came here today, great speeches, but now, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I'm telling you, just be prepared. Right? We may have to pay a higher price for this democracy. Right? So I am saying we need to mobilize community, everybody in the community, that there will be civil disobedience because we will not be inviting, we will not be implementing value-added tax. I made it clear before that fair now. The British government have the right to revoke my appointment. I am prepared to pay any price. I'm probably going to be paying prices anyway because anybody who stand up against this government is being shot down, against the British is being shot down. I am prepared. So I'm telling you all, be prepared. And don't let them soften you, I might leave from back to the United Right? Because at the end of the day, that's the thing they've done for ages, divide and conquer, right? God did not give them the monopoly on common sense, right? And so, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I'm proud of today. The battle has just begun. And so, this motion, I believe, sets better progress for us. But I thank you.
Clarification, Mr. Speaker. I just want to let the Honorable Mr. Felix just know where I stand on this. And I said many times in my statement that I'm not in support of that. And I support this motion here today. However, I think that your presentation should have come early in the debate. Because I said what I wanted to hear is these things. And I have not heard it for today. I mean, whatever I said here wasn't pre-written last night. It was based on what was presented today. So if your presentation came early, a lot of my comments where I was saying demanded the bill to do something wouldn't have been made. But based on the information that was presented to me, I didn't hear of these alternatives. I'm happy that they're there. And what I can say, you are close to that $20 million that I talked about. So I do have your higher state, and I know you can do it. See, I know you can do it. So, and if you have a chance, I know you may reach the $40 million. I think you can do it. And I'll be ready to push you to reach that $40 million, which I think you can do. Thank you very much.
He's been understand to the governors.
He's the vice chairman of the and will be member of the opposition.
He took
Motion.
and he took his package to run. He's gonna start to go.
I take it that and if you notice, in keeping with the standing orders, I did not time him. Because when the government minister arises to close the debate, then he has a limited time, but unlimited time, just like the leader of the opposition, when she closes. So I take it that there can be no further contributions at this stage.
Oh.
I'll waive that, but I'm sure correct. But anyway, go ahead.
You bring your juice, or you gonna bring tea?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
One piece daqui. One piece daqui. Vamos tomar mesmo essa daqui. Hold on,
Those are the gathering, those listening by video.
I'll come.
Initially, I have decided to live back a little bit, because for the past 2 weeks, one meeting with the engaging Minister of Finance and event team as a member of the Appropriation Committee. And basically, pointing out where we stand in terms of that society. And it was step back a little bit. Except that I've had the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, during the last few years to engage or attend meetings of the red team, the first one that was held there in Winter at the Baptist, St. Baptist Church Auditorium. And also had an opportunity to engage a bit of finance. And one of the experts had here on the ground. And I took that opportunity to point out that Turks and Caicos is sort of unique in terms of an overseas territory. You cannot compare Turks and Caicos with the other overseas territory. And one was understanding the dynamics of Turks and Caicos. And the duplication here practically is not visible. But wherever we have people expecting tickets, we have to realize the location and represent it. We have to make sure that our people can enjoy this percentage of living and quality of life. And therefore, if government must be put in, that our people are given that opportunity. I think so that there are 3 key areas of taxation. When you think of taxation, there are 3 key areas that we have to look at. We have to look at policy, legislation, and administration. And we have note that we have to white people, green people, and all legislation that came and we addressing the well. My position was that we're going to talk about transparency. We must be able to let people know the truth and let the truth all that made. And the speaker for the last 2 years, you have said that the all expressions when you realize that your past is inextricably linked to your present and to your future. Any one of us who look at history, we have to determine how we get here and why. And use that as a step to move forward. You know, I mean, should understand that the Minister of Finance had already pointed out because he has served as Minister of Finance here from 1990 to 1995, and I knew that there were a number of challenges that also came to the economy. And in 1995, I had the opportunity of starting from 95 to 2003 and dealing with the country debt situation. The mere fact that we are looking at tolerance, I personally I feel that the 21st century, to make a big pile of words of tolerance, then honestly, I mean, would be shame and upset. Because I feel that we should be given an opportunity to renegotiate, to be able to engage, and to be able to really understand where we have just come, and similar to it, and with due respect to the Minister of Finance, similar to what happened in 1994. We have just come out of a situation, we had a redundancy exercise. And where a number of people are not working. And we're not going to talk about higher taxation. As already pointed out here, you are talking about people being polarized. Only yesterday, I had an opportunity to talk to a young man who pointed out that he was without a job. He was one of those who took the package. He had no more package. And he was looking forward to being employed again. He said, even on the road, waking up, he was prepared to go on the road and wake up. He said that he needs a job. He engaged one of the ministries, and as we pointed out, you need to pay back and decided if you can pay back half of what you have, then you can come back. But this man had no way of paying back out. They said to him, well, once you go to the bank, I said to him, you go and trust on that. There are 10% employment, and they don't. They don't. Over the next couple of years, that house that we're talking about. But you need that money for you and your family. He decided to take my advice, and I hope they give him that opportunity. But the situation here is that you have to be able to say to your people on the street that there would be an increase in the cost of living when you get the tax. come on the street. And if you are not looking at, whatever tax you're looking at there, tailor-made to suit trucks and cases. When we look at those, we must recognize diversification when we are dealing with taxes. We have to look at the economic and social development situation and the design and administration of any tax. And we know that there has to be a comparative analysis. And if we are comparing tax and figures within the on the itself, in fact, we just have a situation where you were earlier that at the Cayman Islands, there was a study carried out in the Cayman Islands, and it was decided that because there was some of this economy, that value-added tax was not so in the Cayman Islands. I am saying that the challenges that we face, that the first order of business should be about putting our people back to work. I am saying that any tax base that we look after, a total review of the tax and take divided, that it would be an engaging of people. And it would be understanding that the majority of our people who want to work have an opportunity and therefore can survive and tax and take divided. Well, all of us know that the cost of living is high. What we are changing from is from a cost, which is FOB, when you're purchasing goods, that you have been calculated to CIF, cost insurance and freight. So, except presently, cost insurance and freight are charged on vehicles. But the value-added tax, it means that cost insurance and freight on importation will charge on every one of those commodities that are taxable. Now, we all know in terms of reform, or even given a credit, that the system that is in place in terms of reforming, if you deposit, the tax again would take a lifetime to get it, from the treasury. We all know that. We need to put in training. We need to get the majority of those who are at the forefront of taxation understanding that this is general public that pay their salaries exempt, and we have to take a serious approach to managing in terms of the total collection of government revenue. And one of the old politicians used to say, jump high or jump low. There's some people who just come to ground money. So therefore, I'm saying this in all honesty, we have to understand that people have to be told not to put their hands in the cookie jar. And therefore, I'm not only talking about tax and take the item issue, because this is regionally and internationally. It's simply made that people have to understand that there is an abundance of money flowing forward. The government on our own now who have committed to provide those social services and to make sure the areas of health and education are at the forefront and any budget that they put. They have to know that they are tax-based. But to get people to understand that whatever is spent comes from all of us, And presently we have a small base to work from. Also, there must not be the bureaucracy that you have. Honestly, there are those who feel that they do you a favor when you go to pay government revenue. During the 70s, I was taught never to refuse government revenue. But sometimes you pull up there and they tell you, I'm sorry, we are closed. You know, we have to be far more proactive in dealing with government revenue. Dealing with value added tax, I am convinced we shall look at that, and I've been, had the opportunity for 37 years to be part of our tax system. Collection, Minister of Finance, and I've seen it all. Right? So basically, we know that when you begin to increase tax, you get more smuggling than ever before. It is looking at compliance, it is looking at enforcement, and basically and making sure that whatever the phrase that have come forward, that you get value for dollars spent, value for money going forward. And that is the only way, Mr. Speaker, and given the present situation with certain cases there, I am saying that we are not prepared for that. I am saying that there should be that window to allow any democratic elected government to look and to engage an economic and statistics department every step along the way, that we can look where we are. What we owe, what does the country get? You know, what are we called upon every month to solve that debt? You know, and basically making sure that those areas, as I mentioned earlier, of health and education are given priority. Mr. Speaker, you have the report. You have the report from the Appropriation Committee. And I'm hoping that with the report, we can basically, the House can be informed of every step along the way, the Ministry of Finance, exactly where we are. There have been commitments that have been made, the commitment to make sure that civil servants, and again, Mr. Minister of Finance, I always say about hard time, I think the civil servants will show a lot of hard time. They're looking forward to that 10% this month. And I'm hoping that we're able to keep that. I know the overall challenge and some of looking at the whole area of education and buildings and whatever. And I'm saying that people are looking forward to that. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I rest my case, and I'm hoping that every step along the way that we're able to engage our people, that they understand that they are taxpayers, and therefore we are accountable to them every step along the way, and we must represent them every step along the way. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, point of clarification. I want to assure the honorable member that the 10% is included in the current budget going forward, and the civil service will be paid.
That's good news. Please, the member for finance first.
Do you want to start?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
One more person?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my on the other side, Mr. Speaker, business growth and diversification of people of these islands have rejected the VAT on this as a deduction.
Speaker, my party has always subscribed to a notion of providing a government for the people, by the people, of the people of these certain society. When your leadership is the Speaker, you must listen to the cries of your people. Listen to them and then make a decision, Mr. Speaker. That's why we're here today, because we hear the cry of our people. Mr. Speaker, the Brits are leading us down the road with a chance. Chance, Mr. Speaker, is a need for the wealthy, but at the expense of the poor. Mr. Speaker, you have to ask, what is the whole purpose of this matter? If you're a hidden agenda, why, when filling out your application, you have to put your account number? Is this just to get access to your financial information? One have to answer this. Mr. Speaker, we cannot put aside and allow this text to be driven down the throats of our people. The people of this country, Mr. Speaker, have endured too many taxations. Car tax, license fees are up, insurance tax, the new HIV, business license has gone up. The only thing that's left to do, Mr. Speaker, is for the Brits to tax us to death. Mr. Speaker, I join with all my colleagues here in support of this motion to repeal that, to give easy time to our people, because for far too long, Mr. Speaker, what they are going through now, the food stores, they can hardly afford what's in the food stores at the moment. And if people will add this additional tax, Mr. Speaker, you have single parents, single families that cannot provide for their families. And we have to, as elected members, protect us. So, Mr. Speaker, let's get this going on. Let's get rid of this tax.
Thank you very much. I recognize the honorable minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, everything has been said, but everybody can see that. So, as the good people who stand here expect, I will say that. Mr. Speaker, when I got notice of this meeting, I yesterday went into North Gates. Time did not permit me so much to make it go to Middle Gates, but I went to North Gates especially to ensure that, because the Premier had said to me that this, as far as he is concerned, is a conscience. I was prepared, he was prepared to allow any person to go however they choose. And so I went to make sure that the people who sent me here understand what was going on, and to really get back to basics with them as to whether or not their feelings were regarding value-added tax relief during the time of the campaign. Speaker, during the time of the campaign, during the time that act was introduced, we have had a number of discussions on that. And I am hard pressed to find anybody
this country, and indeed, the people that I represent, I have not been able to find one of them in support of that. And so, for that reason, I, on behalf of the people of North Milwaukee, intend to vote no. Mr. Speaker, the other reason I intend to vote yes, in favor of the resolution. No against that, no to that. Let me just make that clear. Mr. Speaker, the other reason I intend to vote in favor of this resolution is because this is perhaps the worst time in the history to be imposing tax on anybody. We have come through a near depression, not only here in the CCI, but throughout the world. Having been to the brink, and having seen what the plight of capital and the plight of labor and the population exodus has brought to this country over the last several years, my humble opinion is that if we were to insist on implementing this value-added tax, that we can expect even further erosion of our population base, of the people that provide the jobs for us, and of the businesses having to close. Mr. Speaker, when initially the government asked for the deferral ban, that was not allowed, which means that as a people, it's now up to us to decide our own destiny as far as this as it is concerned. You know, this morning when we came in, one person who spoke early spoke of being disappointed that the gathering wasn't packed, and said that because this is such an important issue, and it really is, Mr. Speaker, it is an important issue, and the gathering ought to have been packed. However, the power of the people are here. The power of the people are here in all of us whom they spent here. Whether you vote in Grand Turk North or Grand Turk South and Zone E, or Middle and North Campus, or whether you vote in Providence Davis or South Campus, the power of the people are here. And I, as the representative of the people of North and Middle Campus, I stand on their shoulders today, and I say to you, Mr. Speaker, that those in Waterloo and those in Park and who are involved in the interim administration must appreciate that the days of the administration, the days of the interim administration are over. And we are now back to power with the people. And so, I rise to support the motion, and in time when the bill comes, I intend to support that too. And I will encourage, supposedly there doesn't seem to be much encouragement that needs to be done, but I encourage all of those who are able to vote here today, vote in the affirmative as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Everyone has spoken, let us all say amen. Five things came to my mind very quickly to say as we wrap up. And I want to express my thanks to all sides of the House for the support for this motion, because this is where we all are, this is where we all make each other. I believe this resolution is important because the Honorable Minister for Finance hasn't said it. But we know this fight will take us outside of this house. We know this fight will take us outside of the trucks and papers. And it will be an important tool to have a resolution for the majority of the members of this honorable house to take to those regional or international bodies who we are going to be calling on to hold the UK into account. Mr. Speaker, thirdly, very quickly, This is not their place. It is a necessary tool moving forward. We have been responsible on both sides to say to people what the steps are, what the results and consequences can be. And I brace myself on the ministry, you don't have to worry, they're the ones on the other side who just knocking at your door and saying, let us know we will not fight you. So we are in it for the long haul. The opposition is here, supporting and standing with the government, simply because we genuinely believe that this is not good for us. The only thing I want to say, there are many challenges that are going to come ahead of us. And we can't back down as a house of assembly simply because the data may be stacked against us, or even the powers may be greater than we would like for them to be. When we were sent to this house, we were sent to this house to represent. And we were sent to this house to stand up for this country, and I'm sure that's what all of us did here today, who are supporting this motion. The UK would never, and I close with this, they would never impose or introduce VAT like this in their country. They would have study after study after study after study. And we need to put this in perspective. This isn't a bunch of politicians who gone rogue. At the end of the day, there is no evidence, no studies, no modeling studies, no economic studies that show us and convinces me that that is needed, necessary, or best suited for trucks and vehicles. That, if it isn't going to happen in the UK, and it is good enough for them to do it that way, it should be the same way in the trucks and vehicles. And I now, Mr. Speaker, invite the request to be put.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leader of the Opposition. The hymn writer says, once every man and nation come the moment to decide. That moment is here. We have talk the talk. Let's see if we'll walk the walk. And I put the motion that it resolved that the Honorable House agrees to repeal the Value Added Tax Ordinance 2012 on effect April 1, 2013. Those in favor, that may say aye. Aye. Those against? There's a division, call for division vote as granted, so please go according to the order seating. I, Mr. Speaker.
I, Mr. Speaker.
I have.
Honorable Governor appointed member Phillips?
No.
Honorable Governor appointed member Mr.
Well, thank you very much. That's 16 yeses and 2 noes. The members having concluded that, I would propose a 5 minutes break. And then, unless members have, please. All right, well, let's there. Move on. Next item on the agenda is report from committees.
Mr. Speaker, before you the standing order, I wish to lay on the table and make public the report from the Appropriations Committee on the value-added tax review meeting held in my case. And the meeting held on 23rd January 2013.
Thank you very much. The next item 10, first reading of the bills. Turks Caicos Islands Value Added Tax Repeal Bill 2013.
Speakers will observe their normal time to carriage of the bill as no longer in time to Assembly. So that the opposition and the overall present in the chamber with the opposition and the commission and the president whole, I would be grateful if you would advise you to take carriage of the bill. Is that available?
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with standing order number 41.1, I move that the bill entitled an ordinance to repeal the value-added tax 2013 be now read for the first time. Do I have a second?
Second.
This ordinance.
Second.
This ordinance may be set as value-added tax repeal ordinance and company cooperation on the date the governor may appoint by publication in the Gazette. I now move that the bill entitled the repeal value-added tax bill 2013 be now read a second time. Do I have a second? Is there a second time now? Do I have a second? I second. Speaker, as you know, the debate on the motion which preceded the bill has covered, I believe, all aspects of the short bill. And so I will not give it to any member that they wish to make a contribution to the bill.
As the member said, I think most of the contributions might have been made already in the motion, but if there are members who wish to make any further contributions, it's not to do so. And if not, a minute or so, if there are no contributions that seem to be decision on both sides, then will we move on?
Since there are no contributions, then I say that the report will send in 46, that the bill now be reported to the Committee of Full Council for consideration. I have a second.
So second.
This bill is now committed to a committee of the whole House.
rise.
Honorable members of the Assembly, we are now in the committee of full to consider the terms and conditions value added tax repeal bill 2013. I now invite the clerk to read the marginal note in clause 1. This ordinance may be set up for value added tax repeal ordinance and comes into operation on a date the governor mails on publication of this act. The question is,
Before we move any further, I wish to propose an amendment to clause 1, and the amendment I wish to move is to strike out the words "the date the governor" and to substitute the so come into operation on the 16th March 2013 or on an earlier date.
yes.
That's the one that was going to give course for the government about the That's the one that was in his office. So I'm going to give him a call to let him know to do interview.
Striking out the
Mr.
words
Jarrett told me to tell him
"the
to
date
do an
on the
interview
date by the
for you.
governor"
So I called him, he was in his office. Call
into
him.
operation on the 15th March 2013
Call Mr.
or
Hall.
on
I
an
haven't
earlier
spoken to him,
date.
but talk to him.
By notice of and
Yeah, he in his
that will
office now.
reappoint and it will be on an earlier date by
No, who
publication and
knows?
presented. And like that we
They're in the committee of the whole house.
So I make a motion that we respect
Okay, all right, I'll let him know.
clause 1 of the bill. Do I have a second?
Do we have a second?
Do we entertain a second before I comment? I think that should be pulled out a little earlier. It is very close to the end of the financial year. And we're already dangerously close. I think a month from today is 2 weeks earlier. I mean, you said you allow that to come in the 15th of March, that basically goes into fiscal year.
And we would like to do fine with this. And so we will change the date to 1st March 2013. Is there any your concern? Yeah.
Second.
The question is that clause 1 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I now invite the clerk to read the marginal note in clause 2. Repeal.
And on Deputy Speaker, I move that clause 2 stand part of the bill. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Second. The question is that clause 2 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, say no. The ayes have it.
Madam Deputy Speaker,
assemblies that may be referred to the orders. And so I believe that part can be managed like that.
Minister, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think that those words should be strike that totally, because we have to enforce what we enacted the first of March. And so, I think we really need to.
Yes, I'm ready.
So now I move for the deletion of the words Minister Day of 2013. Do I have a second? I second it.
Those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable members, this committee stands suspended until the summer the speaker resumes the chair.
All right. Good day.
Mr. Speaker, the committee of whole has completed its consideration of the Turks and Caicos Islands value-added tax bill 2013. And I am pleased to report that the bill has passed through the committee without amendments. But that, Mr. Speaker, I now turn over proceedings of this honorable house to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. We've now moved to the question on that the Direct of Affairs Act passed.
I now move that the bill entitled an ordinance to repeal the value added tax ordinance 2013 is now read for the third time. Do I have a second?
Second.
This ordinance may serve as the value-added tax duty ordinance and come into operation on a day in government may come by publication in the Gazette.
Please repeat that for the clock.
Yes, the proposal now, the amendment that is agreed to and taken as a whole, that we strike out the words, current operation, striking the words, on a day, sorry, on the day the governor may appoint, and we insert the words, on the 1st March 2013, or on an earlier date. My publication in the Gazette.
All in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Mr. Speaker, agenda passes by 9 o'clock.
Premier,
Aye.
Deputy Premier, Minister of Finance,
Aye.
Minister of Health, Minister of Environment,
Aye.
Minister of Government Support Services,
Aye.
Minister of Work and Human Labor,
Aye.
Leader of the Opposition, Lieutenant Frank Keys,
Aye.
all island candidates and members, members of Leader,
Aye.
Deputy Speaker,
Aye.
elected members of utilities,
Aye.
elected members of Rank and Assembly,
Aye.
opposition appointed member,
Aye.
government appointed member, governor appointed director,
No.
governor appointed member,
Thank you very much. Bills passed, 16 ayes, 2 noes. Honorable members, we've come to the end of business as on paper, and if we have anything else, I saw that I just want to move to adjourn very long, but I just want to make note that all of you, I'm sure, realize that I was quite relaxed with regards to certain provisions of the standing orders. I won't refer to the specific ones, but I think you know what I mean. I don't think I would always relax them in other debates, all right? So be prepared. Mr. Speaker, with the order, first statement, if you permit me to just on behalf of this, we condolences to a number of individuals for their cases. And I'd like to bring condolences to the walk-in family of North Capers, and the family of Susan Williams from North Lena, the family of Mr. Almeida, no, Alden Brown from Overback, and the family of Edith Robinson, also from Overback. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to announce to this honorable house, as you know, the situation concerning the former premier of Turks and Caicos Islands, Honorable Michael C. Music, a number of Turks and Caicos Islanders are indeed having a prayer service for him tomorrow morning on his birthday. And tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. On his birthday in downtown Ballpark. So all members who are interested in joining that prayer in the community. Thank you. Motion for adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Second.
All in favor, what else is anticipating, whether it's indeed put out the meeting, okay, thanks very much. We've come to the end of what has been a very productive meeting, and I want to thank all of you for your contributions. Have a pleasant weekend. House now stands adjourned.
What did you say? Send me that. I thought this was saying Sammy died. Somebody died. Oh, I can't wait to get it. To the what?
looking at